Lennington from the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty is standing by. Let's talk about UW. After I've talked about this many times on the program. After the Supreme Court decision, the new rule was the old rule, and it was you may not discriminate based on race. You may not. You are not permitted to. It is not lawful to discriminate based on race. And it's like the entire university system just looked at that decision and said, oh, our name's not on the case, therefore we're just going to blow it off. So what's going on at UW?
Yeah, I mean, UW engaged in this sort of marathon 8-month negotiation with Robin Voss. I don't know if you remember, the listeners remember that, but they wanted $800 million, remember? And Robin Voss was saying you couldn't have raises, we weren't going to give you money for an engineering building, yada, yada, yada. And they took a vote, and they backtracked, and then finally in December they agreed, we're going to eliminate diversity and equity and inclusion positions in statements. We're going to cap hiring. We're going to do all this good stuff, and we're going to put ourselves on the right track. And even right after that, UW announced they were going to get rid of all their race-based scholarships around Christmas time. And that was, just great news. We did some public records requests and found that that's actually not true. University of Wisconsin, several campuses, including UW-Madison, are continuing to engage in race-based decision-making on scholarships, a number of scholarships, fellowships, grants, awards, housing, even mental health therapy is still going on. One of the UW chancellors actually said the quiet part out loud. He told the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel a few weeks ago, quote, "Nothing has been closed with DEI. We have just reimagined and restructured DEI. The DEI employees have the, quote, same job responsibilities as they did previously." And so we've written a letter to them explaining and outlining all of these race-based programs, these fellowships that are for students of color, these awards for, quote, diverse students, and said, look, you guys need to knock it off and be colorblind, because I think the legislature is going to have to go back and renegotiate with them, because it is just not, they don't seem to be keeping up their end of the bargain. And we can't have a university system that discriminates against students and staff based on race.
Yeah, I told you so. Told you so a couple of different times on this program that the university would just simply find a way to change the language, to change the terms, and would do absolutely nothing to eliminate DEI and the racism. This is racism. Let's not call it race-based anymore. Let's just call it overt racism that they haven't been engaged in for a good deal of time. Now, you can roll back the clock, and you probably remember the date better than I do, Dan. There have been more than one Supreme Court decision, whether on race-based scholarships and things like that. None of the universities seem to take the Supreme Court literally. They seem to think, well, as long as we call it something else, we're not going to just have quotas based on race. We'll just take it into consideration, and then we will overemphasize its importance, and then that will actually act as a substitute for quotas. That goes way, way back. The only way that this ends is if the University of Wisconsin, number one, loses massive amounts of budget money, or number two, gets sued into submission.
Yeah, and I think we're probably going to have to do both. I think the next time the university comes back with a request for money, they're going to have to take out our letter, and we got all the receipts. We've got screenshots from all the web pages, from all the public records, from the university that are recent. This is not like years ago. This is like 2 weeks ago. The Board of Regents voted to give $7,500 to a bunch of students based on their race. They call them the Diversity Awards. This just happened on February 9th. We've got emails from Mnuchin's assistant talking about how they've changed the name of DEI to Inclusive Excellence, and that's going to be kind of hilarious because no one's going to figure it out. So we have this letter now. We put it down in writing. We have a public record of it. It's out there, and so the next time they come back and ask for money, this needs to be handed to them, and they need to fix these things. And in the meantime, if any student is ineligible for any of these scholarships or student housing, like certain housing is not eligible for white and Asian kids, they can come to us. We can file a federal civil rights complaint. We can file a federal lawsuit. But, yeah, it's going to take both legislative negotiation and lawsuits. And
so the legislature, can the legislature bring an action since this is a budget issue? Can the legislature say, hey, this is what you agreed to in exchange for budget dollars. You are not keeping up your end of the bargain. Sorry, but here's, now you can talk to the attorney for the legislature.
Well, I don't, the deal, the deal itself is probably being abided by as far as they have gotten rid of, diversity and equity inclusion statements in hiring. They have agreed to a cap on DEI positions, but I don't want to say that they have broken the actual letter of the agreement right now, but certainly they have broken the spirit of the agreement with the legislature because renaming things and telling the press that you have the same employees doing the same things and nothing has changed.
So, and this is what it means.
Yeah.
Same employees doing the same things is telling everybody that white people are horrible, is offering, special privileges, special grants, special dollars, special everything to anyone who is not a white male, or not white heterosexual male, by the way, because DEI also incorporates all the gender, spectrum. So they're doing the exact same thing. I'm totally shocked. I'm so shocked you could knock me over, Dan. I'm not shocked at all. But someone needs to sue because again, you cut off their money or sue the crap out of them. Do you have students who are willing to come forward and say this isn't right? I am not eligible for these programs. And if one came forward, would every single student ineligible for every single program have to make a complaint?
No, we could win with just one student and or a group of students, and we'd love to hear from them. They can reach out to us at will-law.org. But at the end of the day, this is the flagship university of the state of Wisconsin. I mean, it's ranked lower than the University of Illinois right now. University of Georgia, Texas, Florida, all the California schools, Virginia, North Carolina, Michigan are all ranked higher on almost every measure than the University of Wisconsin. What are we paying for?
No doubt. That's a great point. Yeah. When you're getting smoked by the University of Illinois, and all we hear about is the vaunted flagship school of the state of Wisconsin, UW, and we can't even, they'll blame budget dollars. That's what they blame. When instead, what you are emphasizing is not excellence. What you are emphasizing is bigotry. And by the way, going back to this court decision, every single university, every public school should be excising this garbage from the policies, procedures, and content of the curriculum. But they're not doing it, Dan. It's almost like they said, all right, shrug our shoulders. Yeah, they can sue us, but they can't sue all of us.
Yeah, and they know that if we beat them and we get our attorney's fees, that the taxpayers are just going to have to pay for their attorney's fees. So there's got to be some other pain. And what bureaucrats really hate, and the pain that you can inflict on a bureaucrat, having been in state government before, is take away their positions and their GPR. And you take away those things, and that's what makes them not sleep at night. That's what keeps them up, makes them nervous. Makes them change their behavior in the position. You take away their position authority and their general program revenue, all the appropriations that you can squeeze out of them. That's what makes them nervous, and that's the only thing that's going to change their mind.
Yeah, and then you say the reason this is happening is this regent or this chancellor, and you say, look, you have as much GPR as you want, but unfortunately, this regent or this chancellor or this vice provost or whatever insists that you get less money. Sorry, you can blame that person. So clearly that person's salary, is obviously worth getting your budget cut. But my worry, Dan, is that the legislature doesn't have what it takes to do something like that. And so what I'm hoping for is students coming forward, reaching out to Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty so that you can do more than just send a letter. You can actually bring a case, which, as I understand, you are prepared to do in the event you get contact by students.
Yes, we are, and we want equality for all. We want a colorblind society. But at the end of the day, the University of Wisconsin system is a $7.5 billion business. It's got to be held accountable somehow, and we deserve better from that university. We deserve equality from that university.
Thanks for coming on the show, Dan Lennington. I appreciate it. From Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty.